Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
He is Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. And, obviously we've got that big game coming up on Sunday, Austin, but you and Regis got a big game going up against Mondovi, too, it sounds like.
Yeah, a lot of action-packed football for me this weekend.
Absolutely. So, that's going to be, I'm excited to see that one play out tonight, too. So, really good, two really good teams going up against Regis and Mondovi. So, best of luck, bud.
I think it's going to be a good matchup, smash-mouth football, old school.
Yep, I like that, man. Hey, let's start off with, Christian McCaffrey. There was a report that he went to Germany to see a specialist about his Achilles, and there was another report saying he could still be out a little bit longer here. For some reason, I don't know if you remember off the top of your head, I thought I remembered somebody else, like, was it last year, a couple years ago, that went to Germany for an Achilles or something like that, or some specialist over there. But when you hear something like that with an Achilles, is it just another, like, he's getting a second opinion, or is it some sort of different types of care or medicine that he's potentially taking a look at to recover from?
I mean, there's a lot of different reasons people travel abroad to receive medical care. I mean, for these guys, it has nothing to do with finances, because some people do we call it medical tourism, where they go get care elsewhere, like a colonoscopy in Mexico for cheaper, things like that. He's clearly not worried about that. Mm-hmm. His reason for going there is going to be one of two things. It's going to be either there's a specialist there that's, world-renowned at treating that specific problem, or they have a treatment that's not done here due to FDA clearance issues. So, when biologics really first became popularized, so PRP, quote-unquote stem cell injections, things like that, they didn't have FDA approval, and so a lot of those were done in Europe first. And so, I remember back then, when Kobe played, I remember him going over there and getting injections after he injured. It might have been his Achilles too, actually.
Yeah.
After he tore his. It's happened for a long period of time. Now, obviously, those injections are done stateside, so there's not as big a reason to go overseas. But there must be something. I heard about that, but they didn't really disclose what he had done. My guess, though, it would be something in the biologic family. So either a PRP or a stem cell type injection would be the only thing. Anything beyond that is going to be available stateside, and even those would be. So a little bit of a head scratcher why he'd go all the way over there, but clearly there's someone here his agent knows and feels they can offer him something that can't be done here. So
is the big concern, do you think, that they don't want that Achilles to tear, to rupture? Is this why they're kind of looking at different ways to get him back on the field, do you think?
Yeah, there is a link there. It's not a direct causation, so it's not like you have Achilles tendonitis and you're going to rupture your Achilles, but it's certainly, I'm sure, his training staff's radar. But not only that, though, I don't know if you've ever had Achilles tendonitis yourself. It's pretty debilitating. When it's bad, mm-hmm. People walk with a limp. Forget running or sprinting or trying to outrun a NFL safety. You're trying to walk. So it could be twofold. It could be literally, let's get us back in the field. And then, yes, for sure, there is the long term. Is the Achilles going to heal fully? Is it going to be back to quote, play safe? So I'm sure it's twofold. CMC has always been one of the most elite players, dynamic playmakers, but man, he certainly seems to be one of those guys that we're talking about a lot. It's one thing after the other, but hopefully he can get over this and get back to getting on the field.
Mm-hmm. Your quarterback, Sam Darnold, you were at the game last week, and first of all, how was it on the sidelines? I saw the picture on Twitter over there.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I had a great time. It was pretty cool to come up and see some of the players. First off, I don't consider myself a small person, but NFL defensive and offensive linemen are just a different species.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are so big, so fast. The athleticism is just unreal. It's one of those things, like, you see it up close in person, you're like, okay, there's a reason they're getting paid millions of dollars to do what they do.
Yeah.
And we're sitting on a couch watching them, so it was pretty awesome. And then to that injury, he goes down. It was I don't think it was a dirty hit. It was just kind of a low hit by Danielle Hunter, the former Viking, and his knee just kind of got twisted up. And he goes down. He kind of got up, walked, fell down again. The whole stadium goes quiet. He goes off, and then the next play he comes running back out there, and the whole stadium goes crazy cheering for him. So it was a kind of a cool experience that way. But the MRI revealed there's just a bone contusion or bone bruise, which is best case scenario. So those hurt. The knee can swell. It can be hard to play on them, but they're safe to play on. So I don't think it'll be a huge holdup for him, but I bet he still feels it. I mean, the bone bruise doesn't go away in days. I mean, he'll be sore, so it could affect his mobility a little bit, but certainly nothing that we're concerned about long term.
I saw him one of his pressers wearing a sleeve, leg sleeve over that knee too. Is there? And I apologize to this dump. Is there different severities when it comes to bone bruises in that? Because we talk about it, with strains and sprains. Is there different severities when it comes to? Because when I think bone bruise, I go back to Giannis from a few years ago when they called what looked like a nasty knee injury a bone bruise.
Oh, absolutely. I know that one was nasty. The answer is yes, there's severity. We don't have like a scoring scale. So like for sprains, we have grade 1, 2, 3, et cetera. AC separations, we have different grades. Those are graded out, or there's a classification system. We don't have that for bone bruises really, but you can judge it by the size. I mean, when we get an MRI that shows a bone bruise, it'll give us the dimensions of the edema in the bone. So when we get the MRI, you can see it. I mean, it's literally depends on the sequence, either dark or light, spot on the bone that's not supposed to be there. So you can see that. One step further is you can actually compress the bone a little bit. So like an impaction injury, that's a step further. That would be a much more dramatic injury. So I promise you he doesn't have that. So his will be, I would bet, like a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter area of bone that lights up. And anytime he bears weight and it rolls across that spot, his knee's going to bark at him. So that's what you do. You're like, ouch, that hurts. And sometimes it hurts bad enough where people can't walk. I mean, I've had athletes that are on crutches for 2, 3, 4 weeks with a bone bruise, quote, just a bone bruise. I mean, bone bruises can be really bad. But the fact he was able to get up, play the next play, tells me is a relatively mild one.
The other quarterback there that still we're waiting for an official word is Jordan Love, and he's again been practicing this week, although limited, and Packers really keeping it tight-lipped here. And from everybody that I've read or heard about, it sure seems like this was the game in terms of the timeline to get out there. And I know Sunday before the game he went through a workout on the field and such. Mm-hmm. I mean, at a certain, do you kind of get the sense that he's going to maybe play this weekend? Would be your guess?
Well, certainly you see clips of him. I mean, I've been watching him too. I mean, he looks reasonably mobile, but I don't think we've seen him in a dead-out sprint getting chased by a 300-pound lineman, right? I mean, that's going to be the next step, is he able to do that. I think there are a couple things. One, rivalry games, there's always that incentive to get back, right? I mean, anyone who sees that circles that on the calendar and says, that's a game that I want to play in. So there's that mental part of it. The question is he going to be able to physically do it? So I'm sure they're going to have him warm up. I'm sure they're going to have him cut and pivot. And if he's able to move and feels good, I could see him playing. I mean, of course, the concern is the Vikings has a pretty good defense, and we have a really strong blitz package. And I mean, I think we're going to get up after the quarterback. So you do, I'm sure, as a Packer fan, worry about putting a quarterback out there that may have some limited mobility. Because let's be honest, even if he can play, I don't think there's any way he's truly 100%. But at what percent is it good enough? 95, 90, 88. At some point it gets low enough where you're like, look, his limited mobility will be not only a danger to him, but I mean the team as a whole to play. So I do think. Do I get the feeling he's going to play? Yes, I think he will. Do I think he'll be at 100%? No, I don't. But is that going to be good enough? Well, obviously that's why we play the game. So it'll be interesting. But it wouldn't shock me if he's not able to play. If they're saying, look, you're not able to move the way we need you to. And we just don't think this is the right game to get you back out there, then what they don't want him to do is take a hard hit to that knee again, miss another 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever, or pop it bad enough to need surgery. I mean, and then there goes the season. So there's the short and long term that's always on their mind.
So would you say that even though he's practicing, that may not necessarily mean he's, quote, medically cleared to play yet?
Yeah, I mean, we'll often clear people to go back to practice without playing games. Yeah, absolutely. So that happens a lot. Because we all know, especially at that position, if you ever watch practice, they're wearing a special little jersey, which means no one can touch them. So practice is a different thing than games. So yeah, their players will clear to say, hey, start doing, walkthrough practices, start doing, contact practices, and then there's game. And it's definitely a step up. So he may not be cleared, but the medical staff is going to put it in his hands and the coaching staff's hands to say, look, that knee is safe to play on. Is he able to do it? That's what I predict is going on. Is they're going to say, could he play? Yes. Will he be able to, compete and perform? That's what that quote unquote game time decision is.
Another player that would be a big boost for you guys, Jordan Addison, said that he feels good to play to play this weekend. He's coming back from from an ankle injury over there, missing the last couple weeks there. Even with him coming back, do you think he would be potentially limited, or do you think full go potentially with this game going up against Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I'm sure he wants to be out there. I mean, those kind of injuries do kind of nag for a while, so it's hard to say. And Naylor stepped up big time in his absence. I mean, we've been fortunate where we had last year when JJ goes down, Addison steps up, Addison goes down, Naylor steps up this year. So, I mean, we're looking pretty good in the receiver stable. And then hopefully some point later in the season when TJ comes back, we're really going to have a pretty explosive offense. So I do think that they're going to do that same exact line, both short and long term. I mean, when we look at it, I mean, are we down to just one receiver right now? No, I think we have some good receivers out there. So I don't think he, quote, has to play, but I think he'll want to. And if he's able to move, I'm sure the same thing. They'll do warm-ups, see how he's moving. It seems like he's getting some reps in practice, and maybe he's going to be able to go. But I will say there's no way he's truly 100%. I mean, if you miss games, you don't come back to that first game back and feel 100%. So he'll have some limitations, but he's a pretty dynamic player. So I think having another weapon on the field is going to be a good thing for us if he's able to go. So, whenever you play a team, you want every team to be at their best and playing their best. I mean, that makes them exciting. And, just thinking back to the rivalry between the Packers and Vikings, there's been just some historic games. And you just want to see each team bring every weapon they have and make it just an absolute showcase of what they're capable of.
Yeah. Last night, Micah Parsons, I think Cowboys Nation is kind of holding on to their breaths. He had suffered an ankle injury. He said afterwards x-rays were good. He was icing it up and just waiting for an MRI. And maybe just kind of a quick refresher before I let you go. So x-ray would just kind of see if there's a bone break. MRI, you're looking at tissue stuff, correct?
Absolutely, yep. So the three main weapons we have for evaluating injuries with imaging are x-rays, which will basically only show bones. So things that you can see are fractures, dislocations. Occasionally you see an avulsion injury, which is a bone, but it represents a ligament or a tendon injury. And then from there, we'll generally either get CT scans. If it's a fracture, we'll use a CT to evaluate, because that's really good at looking at bones. If you want to look at the soft tissues, which a majority of injuries are, then you're going to be using that MRI to look at cartilage, meniscus, ligaments, etc., tendons. Those are the things that we really assess those with. So I watched most of the game. It must have been late in the game because I didn't see him get injured, so it must have been late in the game. I was done watching field goals. It must have been later in the game. But, yeah, with that injury, I mean, certainly things you'd be worried about would be classic lateral ankle sprain, high ankle sprain. I didn't see the exact mechanism, so I don't know without looking at it. But if it was bad enough for them to be concerned, my guess is it would be either a real legit lateral ankle sprain or high ankle sprain, and those can be nasty. So I'm sure we'll get word on what the MRI shows, and that'll give us a timeline for when he gets back.
Last question for you, just because I haven't really heard it from a national media sense here, but just knowing what the type of injury he had and how he's able to play right now, how remarkable is it that Joe Burrow is out there playing at the level he is right now, coming back from that wrist injury?
Yeah, I mean, I think that has been totally looked over. I think I told you, that's a devastating injury. I don't know if you saw earlier his first game or second game back, it showed him like dropping a Gatorade bottle, and people were like focusing on that. I mean, I watched it and it looked like it just kind of slipped out of his hand. So that was a big nothing for me. But anyway, that is a potentially career-ending, without a doubt, career-ending injury. So the fact he's back throwing, and I mean, are the Bengals playing the best football? No, I mean, they haven't won a game yet, but he looks pretty good. So to come back from that injury, absolutely. I mean, he should be in the running for comeback player of the year after that injury, 100%. I mean, it is a really bad injury to a throwing wrist, I guess. It is amazing that he's back, and I don't think the story's over. I think we got to see how that continues to go, but the comeback he's made thus far has been nothing short of amazing. And it's not a common injury, so people don't really know a lot about it. But scapholunate injuries I can tell you talk to any hand surgeon, and they get one of those, and they're like, oh, this is not a great injury. I mean, there's some things we can treat really well, and some things we're like, let's cross our fingers and hope this works. This is the latter. So for him to be able to do what he's doing, yeah, absolutely fantastic, great to see, and is a testament to kind of athlete and warrior he is. Yeah,
no question about it. So he's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. As always, man, we appreciate the time, and looking forward to your game against Mondovi, Regis versus Mondovi. That should be a very good one, and best of luck to your squad too.